Technology was vital to the creation of my music video in terms of planning, production, editing, and distribution. In each stage of the product cycle, I used many key pieces of technology. The key piece of hardware which I used was the Apple Mac. The Mac had all the key programs needed for research, planning, production, editing, and distribution. The Macs run faster than regular computers and had a large storage space, which was key. The standard browser for the Mac was Safari. Although Safari was capable of doing the job I needed it for, I often chose to instead use Google Chrome, which ran much faster, and so I was able to get to access websites quicker and download files quicker, and as well as other things. A problem with using the school's Macs is that they had many privacy features, meaning that lots of content was blocked, which was hard for my genre of rock due to the fact that many videos contain either explicit language or explicit scenes. Through these, I often used Google itself in order to search for images or for information, examples regarding my production. This was key, especially in the planning stages of my production. In order to keep all my files in one place, I used Blogger. This was good as I could post work from multiple programs such as Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, as well as many images. This would make it easier for me to keep track of my files and also give me a backup of my files in case any of the files were deleted from the Mac by accident. Also, due to technological convergence, I was capable of accessing Blogger on many different sources of hardware, so I was able to access and add to my work from any time due to the app on my phone. I used Microsoft Word in order to type out any scripted writing that I needed to do, such as my evaluation of existing music videos and music posters. This program was good as it's extremely easy to use, and once I had finished typing, I could easily copy the text into a Blogger post. I used Microsoft Word when making my storyboard. Instead of drawing each picture one by one, I decided to use Photophonier and convert pictures into a drawn effect so that they gave a more accurate representation of what I wanted to see in the shot. This made the storyboard quicker to create, as well as being much more presentable and professional. As well as Word, I used Microsoft PowerPoint and also Prezi in order to make the presentations for purposes of focus groups. PowerPoint was much easier to use as it was simpler, and I'd been using it for years before taking the media course. Prezi, on the other hand, was harder to use, but it made the PowerPoint much more interesting to audiences, so I used a mixture of both. In order to post PowerPoints onto my blog, I had to first convert them using the site ScribeD. ScribeD was important as it meant that I could continue to keep my work all in my blog. It was easier to post Prezis onto my blog as I could just embed them. In order to record my focus group, I used the Apple Mac program PhotoBooth. PhotoBooth was helpful as it meant I could record my focus group without then having to upload it from a camera onto the Macs, which could potentially take a while. Once I had recorded my focus group, it was extremely simple for me to export the file onto YouTube and Vimeo. YouTube is extremely popular and so allowed my focus group to reach a large audience. However, due to copyright issues over example songs that were played through my focus group, such as my final chosen track and 3 Doors Down's When I'm Gone, I had to use Vimeo as they were more lenient on copyright policies. I used YouTube in order to distribute my final music video following the editing stages. Sites such as YouTube and Vimeo allowed for David Gauntlett Web 2.0 theory as audiences could independently access my music video online. In order to overcome the copyright issue, I used Twitter in order to contact the band Nickelback in order to ask them for permission to use their song. Furthermore, I used Twitter in order to publicise my music video once it was on YouTube by posting a link to it. As well as Twitter for this, I used other social media such as Facebook in order to post my music video to large audiences as well as friends. Using Facebook and Twitter allowed for me to get feedback on my music video, and I could easily reply to the feedback in order to ask what I could improve in the future for other music videos if I create them. As well as using Facebook and Twitter to distribute my music video, I also used them to distribute my survey, which I created using SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey was a great way of making a survey due to the fact that it was free and easy to post on social media as well as easy to print. The site was easy to use, and furthermore, the results were instantly transformed into graphs, which made analysing them extremely simple. Once all of the research and planning had been conducted and analysed, I was ready to start production. For the filming of my music video, I used a Canon 600D camera. It was excellent due to the fact that it gave an extremely clear image, but also I could blur images if I wanted to add any effect prior to editing. I could do this by generally blurring the image or by drawing the focus onto one character or object. Furthermore, the camera could adjust the ISO level, meaning that I was able to keep a consistent level of lighting over the shots. This was especially important during outside shots of the park scenes and the cafe scene. Finally, the camera had a high quality 18 to 55mm lens. This meant the close-up shots or other shots which required zoom were high quality and high resolution, which was vital to the quality of my production. Proliferation of hardware and content has allowed for hardware such as cameras to become so developed with better quality images and options for the user. After gathering all of my shots, I was ready to edit. I edited my work on the Mac's most superior editing software, which was Final Cut Pro X. This was far more developed and professional than my alternative of iMovie, as it had more precise cutting as well as much better effects such as transitions and filters. Examples of filters that I used are the Dream filter and the Desert Glare filter. These filters allowed for the reception theory. An example of this from the use of the Desert Glare filter is that it was used to connote anger due to the red colours, but audience may feel that the red colour may also denote love. The precision and professionalism of Final Cut Pro X allowed me to make my production look equally as professional, and this had a positive effect on my audiences. The strength of Final Cut is that it saves work automatically, and this was important due to the fact that following two hours work on the Mac I was working on, following 2 hours work, the Mac I was working on froze, meaning that I was capable of turning it off without losing my work, and so my schedule wasn't delayed by having to redo the 2 hours that I lost. In order to create my Digipack, I used Microsoft OpenOffice. Microsoft OpenOffice allowed me to edit my Digipack's photos in order to give them the desired coloration and filters. For example, I used a grayscale filter in order to keep with the dark tones and colorations of Digipack. I also used a dark blue vignette in order to keep with the colour scheme presented on the front cover, which had desaturated colours and lighting. This gives continuity through my Digipack. Due to this, I decided to continue with the use of the vignette filter on my poster. This gave my band a greater identity, as the colour scheme will begin to be related to them by audiences. Once I had created all of my images, I then used OpenOffice to compile them onto a Digipack template so it would be ready to print. In order to apply my Digipack and poster to real techniques of advertising, I decided to create examples of where my product could be advertised using a bus stop poster and also an album cover on the iTunes store. This allowed me to see a practical example of how my product and poster would look while in use. Having my product on iTunes would connote strong synergy due to the fact that anyone who purchased the album would earn iTunes money, and iTunes is used by a mass audience, so my album's likely to be seen by many. While answering evaluation questions, I used iMovie in order to record my vocal track and in order to compile the video along with the images. I chose to use this instead of Final Cut due to the fact that it didn't need to be as accurately edited as my music video. As well as this, it was much quicker and simpler to use for this given task. Overall, I feel that technology has really enhanced my production, which has led to higher production values overall, which in turn leads to a better audience experience and more professional media product.